It's going to message.
So a couple of things can be going on. You've given Pablo the benefit of the doubt that when you brush him, if he's skin sensitive, if he's sore, he's getting snarky. But when you distracted him with a bit of hay, it wasn't there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
Or
and
sometimes it is still there, even when he's got the hay, he can still do it
okay.
as well.
But then
Yep.
you're seeing when somebody corrects him, when somebody's just firm, then he
Yep.
stops doing it.
Yep.
Okay. So this is how I love a good mystery. And I go, it's, to figure out horses, sometimes you're sleuthing out, you're getting clues and you're trying to
Yeah.
piece together, and it's never all one thing. It could be a
Yeah.
combination that he's chronically a little bit sore and that he has learned how to tell you how things are going to go.
That's exactly what he does. Yes.
And there's
Yep.
nothing wrong. Like I like to tell people, to have a mutually respectful relationship and a mutually beneficial relationship. That
Yeah.
means that sometimes, like teenagers, we have to sort of say, enough's enough. You need to
Hmm.
show me some respect, and I'm showing you respect. And
Yeah.
so, what I would pay attention to is a sour expression is one thing, right?
Hmm.
So, if my kid doesn't
Like
want
when
to,
I say sour, sometimes he's pinning his ears. I don't think they could go back any further if they tried. Would you call that sour?
yes, because he's
Okay.
not he's not snapping his teeth. He's not
No,
turning around to bite you.
sometimes,
He's
but not always.
okay. If he turns around to bite you, or if he moves
Hmm.
his body towards you,
Yep.
that's when I would do something about it. If he's
Yep.
just giving you a really ugly face, I would be
Hmm.
on guard. I would be very aware of my personal space, right?
Hmm.
I'm not going to correct him for what he thinks. I'm only going to correct
Okay.
him if he acts on it.
Okay. So he can have his ears pinned back and he can have a pissy face, and I just kind of ignore that at
Oh,
this
yeah.
stage.
It's like I had to
Yep.
do the dishes even if I moaned and groaned about it. It's like, no, no.
Okay.
Mom says your turn to do the dishes, you do the dishes, no matter how much of a fit you pitch, or,
Yeah, yeah.
no matter how much you grumble and get angry, you do the dishes because that's part of the relationship. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I go, horses are allowed to tell me what they really think, and they're
Hmm.
allowed not to like it. But on my end,
Hmm.
if I know I'm not doing anything that's causing pain or distress,
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
draw the line when I sort of go, the horse should do it because I say so. I go, that's not fair. But
Yeah, yeah.
if I know
That's what I
I'm
struggle with, that piece. Yep.
so whether you touch him at a distance with a whip or you
Yep.
brush him,
Hmm.
um, if he's reacting to that,
Hmm.
how could he even sort of exist? Like I go, he can be touched. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's
Yeah,
asking too much of any horse. And
exactly. Yeah.
sometimes if we come on hard or we have the wrong brush or we curry a little too hard, they can tell us they don't like that. But that's
Hmm.
why I said just start with a whip or a stick.
Yeah, I go very softly on him.
Mhm. And
Yep.
just a stroking motion. Like,
Yep.
just can I stroke you? And then you know for sure you're not hurting him, you're not creating
Hmm.
pain. And so you can watch his reaction,
Hmm.
right? And if he can't tolerate that, it makes me wonder how you get a halter on him if he can't stand to be
Well,
touched.
this is the thing. Sometimes putting the halter on, it's gotten a whole lot better. But I'll say in a mood, right? I don't even know what I
Hmm.
mean by that. But if he's not in the headspace for it, he pins his ears and tries to nip the halter.
Okay.
Um, And if he's in that mood, I normally just say, okay, well, you don't want to come out, so you can stay in the paddock today. Other times he's keen and he waits at the gate and he has his halter on quite fine.
Okay. And so those could be days where he doesn't feel good internally, and other days he
Mm-hmm.
feels good. So you're addressing it with your nutrition, your supplements, the Previcox. You're doing everything
Mm-hmm.
and the work. And so you're doing
Mm-hmm.
everything you can do to get his body back on track, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and he can tell me I'm having a bad day. I call it
Yeah.
like if I put a horse out on the lunge line and they lose their mind just because that's what they were feeling, I call it
Mm.
vent, having a good vent or having a good rant.
Yes.
And I go,
Yeah.
everybody's entitled to
Yeah.
have a good rant. I'm not taking it
Yep.
personally. But
Yep.
where I would draw the line is coming at me with teeth or feet or body
Mm-hmm.
parts. That's
Yes.
when you're going to basically, you can use a tool or you can use your movement or whatever you've got, but you go,
Yeah.
no, 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 we don't begin our conversation like that. We don't
Yeah.
have a conversation like that. And
Yeah.
so if he's biting the halter, what I would do is send him away and then try it again.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
and if sending him away makes him really pissy and run around the paddock and all that, then just wait for him to calm down and then put the halter on. And so
Yeah.
on a day he's not in a mood, it sounds backwards, but the more you push him away from you when he's in that kind of mood,
Mm-hmm.
right? So rather than even trying to touch him yet, it's like
Yeah.
anytime you get him to move away from your space, ironically, you reassure him.
Mm.
And that's part of how you help a horse with that defensive strategy begin to
Mm.
trust you and begin to
Yeah.
calm down. So if you go
Yeah.
in to touch him, and that's why I wouldn't have him tied. I would probably untie him and have him on a lead rope with just the lead rope over your
Yep.
arm. And
Yep.
if you want to start from a distance, then just stroke him with like a long whip.
Yep.
Or if you're brushing him, you can decide if you want to correct it when he pins his ears, but you don't have to. You can wait for him to take an action, or if he pins his ears, you can just ask him to take a step or two away from you. If he comes at you, you need to get him away from you, not you away
Yep.
from him.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So no bumping with I mean, like what type of correction, other than like flapping my arms or something, should I bump the lead rope on his head collar, or is that too harsh? Or I
Nope,
kind of,
whatever is effective at getting him to move his feet in
yeah,
the in any direction that is
away
not
from
towards
me.
you.
Okay. So say for instance, I was attempting to brush him and because he sometimes stamps his feet, flicks his tail. One time he moved his bum towards me. So in that instance, if what would I do to get his bum away if I don't have a whip or something with me? Just kind of
I would always have
jump
a
and
halter and lead rope,
yeah,
and from any area of their body, because that's the
yeah,
thing. Horses have no rules. They will come at you
yeah,
tail, hind feet, hind quarter, belly, front feet, neck, head, whatever they've got, right? And
yeah, yeah,
so I would always use the lead rope. I could wave the lead rope, I could bump the halter, I could shake it really hard, but I want to cause
yeah.
the feet to move away from me.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so what he could be testing with you, because it's not happening with somebody who is correcting him when it's mild.
Mm-hmm.
When horses get snarky towards us and they get cranky directed at us, It's
Mm-hmm.
really his insecurity and
Mm.
what he's testing. This sounds backwards, but he's pushing on you because he considers you another member of the herd. So that's kind of,
Down the pecking order.
well, that's what he wants to find out. And every
Yeah.
day is a new day. So he keeps doing it to see
Yeah.
if you're going,
Yeah.
if you are qualified at managing your own space. So you have an invisible bubble. Excuse me. You have an invisible bubble. He has an invisible bubble. And if you're
Mm.
very aware of before the bubbles touch, who's
Yep.
pushing towards who,
Yeah.
right? And so if he gives you a pinned ear and you step back, then he
Mm.
goes, okay, in our herd of two, I
Mm.
moved her, which means in
Yeah.
his mind, it's not a dominance and submission thing. It means he's now responsible for your safety.
Mm.
And the reason it relaxes an aggressive horse when you are very mindful of your space and you say, knock that off or get away from me until you can be more
Mm.
polite. What that
Yeah.
says to him is, I'm aware. And if I'm aware of you pushing on me, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware of potential danger.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you say, don't come near me like that, you need to step away from me, it shows him that you're aware, you're alert, and you can assert yourself in a way that makes you qualified to protect him.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. It does. Yeah. So, um, what are your thoughts then? Say if I was brushing him or whatever, and he does pin his ears, do you think it's better to address that at that level or just ignore it or just kind of have to see how we go?
Normally, I would ignore it and wait for them to act on it. But
Hmm.
you develop that awareness where you can respond as fast as they can act. I would say in this case, because it's a little bit of a pattern between the two of you,
Hmm.
and you're going to develop your,
Entrenched, I would say.
okay, right, entrenched. To change that habit between the two of you, I would do it then.
Okay.
So
All
if
right.
he starts to pin his ears at you, I wouldn't tie him at all for anything you need to do.
Okay.
If you're going to put a
Yeah.
rug on or pick his feet or groom him or do anything, and even when you go to put the halter on,
Hmm.
if he comes to you with that snarky expression, forget
Hmm.
about haltering him and send him away. Just like wave
Yeah.
the halter and lead rope at him and take
Yeah.
over the gate area, take over the water trough area, like take
Yeah.
over a big area and tell
Yeah.
him he needs to go back there and wait a bit. And
Yeah.
it's never the tricky part with this insecurity is what I call it in horses. It's a
Hmm.
defensiveness. The tricky
Hmm.
part is you can't ever have the energy of punishing. So you're not
Mm.
doing it to him. So
No.
the first thing he's testing you is can you protect yourself,
Yeah.
right? And if you can't
Yeah.
protect yourself from another herd member, then you're certainly not qualified to protect the herd.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and he tests you all the time because he wants to teach you. This is,
Yes, he does.
yeah, he's giving you a private lesson. And just like you saw with the
He's like,
body
how many
worker,
times we have to have this lesson?
I know, right? My horses did the same to me. So if you can be sure but kind,
Hmm.
if you can be
Yeah.
calm, if I can be calm and be very, very assertive about my space, then I
Yeah.
I don't create a fight. I don't create an
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah. So
it's
don't
sort
take it personally or get emotional about it. Just if he pins his ears or comes at me, then just shoo him away.
yeah. Or even if
So
he looks at you like that, I go,
yeah,
would we take that from our
yeah,
housemate or our or our spouse or our kids or our work, coworkers? No, we
nope.
would be like, don't do that.
What's up your bum?
Yeah, don't be near me
Yeah,
like that. And that's all you're
yeah,
saying to him is you're saying, look, as long as you feel that way, you just stay over in your space and I'm going to be over here in my space. And when you feel
yeah,
differently, we can interact,
mm,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so what that means is he belongs at the end of the lead rope when he looks like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to get to the end of the lead rope, you're not the one moving. He is.
No. Yep, yep.
Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right.
And
And uh, oh no, you carry on. So I'll ask about rugging in a minute.
so same thing with anything he doesn't like to do.
Yeah.
You've addressed pain issues and you can be mindful, you can be soft and careful, knowing he's skin sensitive, knowing he might be muscle sore. So you
Mm-hmm.
can understand when to cut him some slack, but you can also say, look, I'm doing the best I can, and you need to
Yeah,
work with me here. Like that's
yeah,
really all
yeah,
you're asking him to do is you need to work with me here and
yeah.
don't take it out on me.
Yeah. Where I've gone wrong is I've swung to the other end of the pendulum of he's got an opinion, and I'm thinking if you really don't want to be brushed or you really don't want to be rugged, then I won't do it. Right. So the minute he's gone, no, don't do it, I've gone, okay, stop. But then there's things that we kind of have to do. Do you mean like he kind of needs to be brushed a little bit?
Hmm.
And because of potential soreness or whatever, like we spoke about over email, ideally I could rug him when it gets cold,
Yeah. And if
So
he doesn't like it the first dozen times, it's like there's, to me, like any relationship, there's a give and take on both sides. And
mm,
if we are quite sure that we're not asking for anything too unreasonable, we recognize, okay, this is uncomfortable. I understand you don't like it, but
hmm
can you work with me here? And
yeah,
how can I help you cope with this better?
mm,
Right? But in order to help you learn to cope with this thing you don't like, but is necessary, like shots, right? Vaccines or anything that
hmm
is not the
Oh,
fun
you
part
should
of
see
life.
him. I can't worm him, funny enough, as you could predict. Like he just, yeah, he's a nightmare. So yeah, things he's not the easiest to handle.
Yeah. And it's, every spot an opinion. That's how Appaloosas come.
Hmm
They're opinionated about lots of things. But what they
Mm,
take, the brilliant side of them is they ask us to be consistent, kind, but also not a pushover. Like
mm.
to be kind and
I've been a
strong
pushover. That's what I've been.
and with the best intentions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was the in the relationship. I'm doing all the giving,
There you
and
go.
he's just take, 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 take.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you can say, okay, step up to the plate, little man. It's time to grow up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Too bad
time
if you
that,
don't want your rug on, you're having it. I'm sorry.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
not, I'm not talking over rugging. It's not layers upon layers. It's really just like a cotton and a rain sheet to keep out the wind and the rain. That's all. It's not like it's, over the top. Mm.
and if you do the best you can, like what he does is he makes you doubt yourself.
Oh yeah.
And this is
Well and
probably,
truly, he's got me pinned for that one.
yeah. And that I think it's kind of amazing. Everybody who owns a horse, my horse is included, they figure out who you are and then
Mm.
they scratch on the
Like,
weak
pick and
bits.
pick and pick.
Yeah. They just like my horses did the same thing to me and they just kept scratching on my weaknesses until I figured
Yeah.
out how to turn that weakness into a strength.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I would do too little, and then I would get
Yeah.
mad, and I would do too much.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, you're going to miss the mark. But
Yeah, this issue though has been going on for, I've owned him now for 8 years. So I would say for about 7 years.
yeah,
So
they don't give up on us.
no, no, they don't. So it's about time I learnt the lesson really, isn't it? And
Yeah.
just, yeah,
And the
put my coat
lesson
of armor
is,
on him.
well, the
Yeah.
lesson is you get to be valued and respected in the relationship as much as you love
Mm,
and respect and value him. And
mm,
if he's having a bad day and being a bully, then you get to say, you know what, time out. You go to your corner. I'm going to wait here.
mm-hmm,
Let's give it 5 minutes and we'll try it again.
mm-hmm.
And I go, you can always take a fresh start. But
Yeah.
as long as you're sort of walking on eggshells around
Mm,
his, you know, he's got
yeah.
he's got you sort of
Totally.
yeah, he's getting the benefit
See,
of the relationship kind of at your
yeah.
expense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even when the body worker was here on the weekend, and I was, like I said, talking to her about rugging him and the challenges I have, and she goes, "Okay, we'll get the rugs out and let's see what he does." And she goes, "Okay." She was holding him, and he was just standing perfectly still. And I went to put the rug on, and I did it from a distance, and I could just feel myself. I'm so like I don't feel that way with Stitch at all, but I'm so
Hmm.
defensive of him because I'm so used to him having a reaction. I'm waiting for it. And she goes, "Whoa, stop, stop, don't do that." Like, because she could really pick it up that no wonder this is going so pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit to work on.
Well, and that's a really good point because I think what will help you break this cycle is the second you feel that way or he does
Mm-hmm.
something, when he does something, it's going to trigger those feelings in you.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the second that you feel triggered by something he does that's familiar that you don't like, that's
Mm-hmm.
when the two of you need distance. So you
Yeah.
just stop what you're doing,
Yeah.
send him away from you, and then pause. And what you're waiting
Mm-hmm.
for in the pause is number one, you have to let it go and sort of
Mm.
go, okay, we're going to try this again with
Yeah.
a,
Yeah.
genuine, like, okay, it's going to work this time. We're going to try it again. And if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work for 99 times, we're going to try it 100 times,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to work. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
on his end, you're waiting for the expression to just soften a little.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so you can play with allowing him to approach you, you approach him, it doesn't matter. But as soon as you get that feeling of
Mm-hmm.
uncertainty and not trusting him, those
Mm-hmm.
that's your self-preservation kicking in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
give yourself more space and
Yeah.
then try it again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Okay.
don't try to rush through anything with him.
No. No. Okay. Yeah. Good idea.
Okay. So let's look at Stitch before you're late for work. So, and if you want, put any of that stuff on video to look at with Pablo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything you have a
Shall do.
question about with that, we can definitely look at. And we can do that right away too. You don't have to wait 2 weeks.
Okay. Good. I thanks.
Oh, you look very bundled up. It's cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Bit cold and rainy.
So how has he been feeling? How has he been attitude wise? He's a bit furry with his winter coat.
Yeah, he's very fairy. Attitude wise, he's improved so much. Um, he hardly ever gets snarky at me now.
Great.
And I really feel it. The minute I have 1% of defensiveness in my thoughts, in my body, he snarls at me. So I'm very cautious to, yeah, keep it all
Stitch,
positive and whatnot.
Stitch does that, or you mean Pablo?
No, Stitch does that.
Oh.
Yeah. When I say snarls, nothing as dramatic as Pablo. He
Mm,
just like his nostrils go in.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, he's a lot happier.
Yeah, he's kind of trucking along. Like I'm seeing a lot more stability through the hindquarter and the back. It's
Mm-hmm.
still a bit of a work in progress, but going around that circle where you were walking with him looked more forward than he had been.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Yeah.
you finding he's keeping a better rhythm?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he stops a few times in this session, but no, generally he is a lot more forward and um yeah, more rhythm.
Yeah, and I can't tell if he's trying to get a nip of grass or is he,
He is.
but is he
Yeah, he's
lengthening his neck more often while he's moving?
um yeah, sometimes he does lower it. He doesn't have it in the sand as much as he used to. So when we first started, it was quite low,
Mm-hmm.
often quite low, but he doesn't really do that as much now.
No, but he's kind of keeping it longer without putting it low, which is quite good.
Yeah, yeah.
And then are you finding that you're having to use up any extra energy anymore, or that's kind of leveled out?
No, that's kind of calmed down a bit. I don't know what that was all about. I did put him back on the digestive EQ, which is a like a stomach support thing or
Mm-hmm.
digestive support, as the name says. Um, and I've run out of it at the moment, but he was also on the Mag E,
Mm-hmm.
magnesium placement. But yeah, he seems to have that little hiccup that we had around him being really spooky. I don't know what that was all
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
but that seems to have settled down. And this is kind of his typical work session. He just goes to it and mostly keeps his mind on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what
Yeah.
I like seeing is before when he was lengthening his neck, especially putting his nose really low, he was slower and stopping more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see him sort of play with lengthening his neck, but really keeping a reasonable walk, like a good steady walk with the hind legs. It's still a work in progress. You can see where he still hasn't completely straightened out that crest through his neck. And
Mm.
you can still see a little bit of movement through the pelvis and the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's doesn't seem to be like one of the things I've noticed, I know we talked about was that the fetlocks dropping a lot. And once he
Yes.
starts, when he's turning like that, you can see a little bit more of the struggle and he slows down on the
Mm-hmm.
turn. But on the
Yes.
straightaways, you can hardly see that anymore. So on the straightaways, his fetlocks aren't dropping as much. And just on the
Yeah.
turns, they start up a little bit again.
Yeah. Yeah. And my hoof trimmer as well has also noticed that his so on his front feet, well, actually probably all feet, sorry, he'd often wear his heels down, but he's actually now getting a bit more of a heel,
Excellent.
and they're kind of straightening up a little bit. She said the one front foot is better than the other, but she said the one that kind of goes quite pancakey is the one that he obviously puts a lot more weight on.
Yes.
So yeah.
And was that the left front?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the good one or the pancake one?
The pancake one.
The left one, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because he has a little more trouble with the right hind. Like that's something we've talked about
Yeah,
before. And
yeah.
when
He
one
has got a
hind, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say he has got a big scar. This happened well before I got him, but he's got a big scar on his right hind down the bottom section. Can you see it there?
I actually can, yeah,
Yeah,
with yeah.
yeah. It's quite a big scar, so I don't know what he's done. Got caught in the fence or something. So whether or not that's
So
that,
what
I
that
don't know.
can do is it it doesn't necessarily create pain or discomfort now once it's healed,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
what happens when we get an injury is the body changes the coordination to let that
Mm.
part of the body rest.
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
don't actively go back in and say, okay, back to work, right hind leg,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that detour sort of stays in the nervous system.
Yeah.
And
So that could have been what's happened,
yep,
perhaps.
yep, he could have had an injury there on the right hind leg, and
Mm.
nobody worked with it properly to restore the function. So it's almost
Mm-hmm.
always the opposite front foot that takes the excess weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always a diagonal. And so if the right hind isn't fully functional, then the left front is usually the one doing too much work or carrying
Mm-hmm.
too much weight. And that's why when he has a lot of energy, if he does go through this again, doing a circle with the right hind leg on the inside will
Mm-hmm.
use up the energy the fastest in the most positive way, because
Okay.
that's the hardest leg to kind of get back in action. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you put the right hind leg on the inside of the turn, it has to work a little harder than when it's on the outside of a turn or a straight line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he has extra energy, if that comes back, that's where circles to the right can use the excess energy for something very positive, get the right hind leg back in action.
Mm-hmm.
And it tends to be hard enough that they don't lose their minds. They just start to kind of go, oh, that's a little bit difficult. Maybe I'll slow down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's funny when I prior to starting my sessions with you, if ever I tried to lunge him on the right, he'd get quite snarky and try and come in at me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's telling you, no, I don't like that.
Too hard basket. Yeah.
Yeah. But how do you like what I'm seeing in the circles so far on the video is even though the two of you are walking the circle together,
Mm-hmm.
he's not really even slowing down very much on the circle. He's actually able to kind of track a large
Yeah.
circle, but a
Yeah, for the majority of them, yeah, yeah.
mhm.
If I come in too much, especially the other way, if I come into the side of him as opposed to walking more behind, and it must, I presume, ask the outside leg to kind of come in a little bit deeper, does it? I don't know what it does, but that's when he then slows down to a stop. So I then kind of just come behind him again to reduce
Yeah,
the difficulty of it.
he's very close. But whenever you use the long reins from directly behind him, what you're really
Mm-hmm.
directly doing is reducing any side bending of the spine.
Mm-hmm.
So it addresses lateral bending, but the other part of being straight is rotation that makes the barrel roll and the hindquarter
Yeah.
tilt, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ground driving like this really helps horses that aren't forward get forward because you're you're not really you're not making them perfectly straight. You're just sort of getting them a little bit straighter and channeling
Mm-hmm.
that energy forward, but it doesn't
Yeah.
require that they engage the hindquarters yet. You're just sort of straightening the
No.
spine.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
soon as you step to the inside, so even if you walk with him on the fence line As soon as you go to the inside and you have a static inside rein and you're using just the outside rein, you change from affecting the lateral bending to affecting the rotation.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and
Yeah.
as soon as you affect rotation in the hindquarter, because the spine can bend and the hindquarter sort of shifts left and right, but a disengaged hindquarter usually means it's a rotation issue. You have a
Yeah.
tilting through the hindquarter.
Yeah.
So as soon as you step to the inside, even if you were close and you walked with him, the action of the long reins immediately starts to engage the hindquarter. It starts to restrict that lateral mobility of the pelvis.
Yeah.
And you can see when he's walking, there's still a lot of visible sort of side to
Yeah.
side movement
Rocking.
through the pelvis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think just like you're doing right this minute, going a little bit to the inside, you see immediately it reduces that rocking, which
Yep. That's when
in
it stops.
yeah, because as soon as you engage the hindquarters, if you just think of engagement equals stability and disengagement is movement we can see. And so when you're walking behind him, you can see the movement, but over time, it's rocking way less than when you started.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's getting
His
more,
tail's also straightened out too.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's on the straight line with you behind him. You're giving the spine a little bit more support than the pelvis. And you're
Yeah.
giving the pelvis, because you're straightening and stabilizing the head, the neck, and the spine, of course, it's stabilizing the pelvis, along with it. But it's not directly telling the pelvis to quit moving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as soon as you step to the inside on the long reins, the first action of the long reins is they can't tilt the pelvis. It's a lot more work for them to rotate the spine or rotate the pelvis side to side. So that's why the long reins on a circle or the long reins from the inside acts
Yeah.
to immediately re-engage the hindquarters.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so if the horse stops, if the horse panics, if the horse loses, just gets harder and harder to go forward, then that is the horse telling me they're not quite ready to engage the hindquarters. They still need a little more help with just, don't bend.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But I really like the way you're doing this, because even if you stay behind him or just to the inside, just cutting the arena in half and starting with some big circles from this position is a little bit of a gentler way to start stabilizing the hindquarters more and engaging them.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a softer approach than just going to the middle of the circle and making him go around. That is like
Yeah.
more drastic.
Yeah.
And he's pretty willing. He's pretty forward. He slows down. He stops more frequently on the circles compared to the straight line, but he looks perfectly happy, not hard to get him going again.
No, no, he's good.
And so what you'll see is what I would do is just kind of maybe even like, I think what you're doing now, which is two big circles in the whole arena. So,
So I do I start off just going around the arena in straight lines.
mhm,
And then I do a few like large circles down that end, and then I do some serpentines.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just mix them up, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And so start thinking in terms of if he's slow and if he's really wobbly, like here where you're starting off. He's a bit wobbly, a bit slow. So you go, okay, let's follow the rail for a lap or two and let you get warmed up. And then we'll start putting in our circles and serpentines and turns. And you can just kind of watch the top of the hindquarters to see that stability, because you can play with the path of travel rather than changing the angle of the long reins to kind of gently get to the same place. And so the
Yeah.
more frequently you ask for a turn or a change of direction or something like that, or even a serpentine, watch the top of the hindquarters. And if he stays forward on a tight turn, even if he slows down, and you see the hindquarters get very level and stable, then you might want to repeat that tight turn more often.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, all of this looks good. So let me stop this video and is the other one, the other,
To the yeah, to the other direction.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this looks, and we can come back to this one if we need to. But the fact that he's happier and more consistent is really good. And I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of waiting for that with Pablo. You're going to hit a threshold because he's doing well enough in the work, and you've got him on the long reins and he's moving. And part of me
Yeah.
goes, don't worry too much about the handling stuff. The better he feels, the better that will get, like you're seeing with Stitch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you got to get things done too, so you can address
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
address it directly and
Yeah.
do a video
Is
of it.
this the same video? I think this is the same one. Oh no,
This,
this is number 2.
yeah, this is number 2. I know it looks like the
Oh,
same
okay.
video.
Oh yeah,
Give it,
sorry. Yeah, I cut across the sorry, I do. I cut
okay.
across the arena in a minute. I'm thinking I'm going the right same way, but it's okay.
But yeah, I like how much more length I'm seeing in his body. And
His body's looking better, isn't it?
yes, it almost, in a sense, looks weaker as he becomes more supple. So what you
Yes.
see is he doesn't look quite as compact and
Muscly.
strong and muscly, but he
Yep.
looks softer and happier. And that's typically when horses look really well muscled, but they're either anxious or snarky, or the movement has issues. They're usually hiding a skeletal instability underneath all those tight muscles. And
Yep.
just taking the pressure off of him on the lunge line got him to calm down pretty quick, and he got loose pretty quick. And now what I'm seeing with the long reins is that guidance. He's getting more and more stable through his head, neck, barrel, and pelvis. If I look, sort of at how much are these bones moving along here, right? So I don't get too distracted with the legs or even the head and neck position. What a very cute doggo.
He's
Um,
obsessed with my daughter who's standing in the middle of the arena. So he's
ah,
just staring at her.
that's so funny. So as he goes, there's less rolling and less wiggling sort of between the ears to the tail head. Do you know what I mean? And when he lifts his head and gets distracted, you can sort of see that instability go down the whole body.
Yeah, yeah.
And when he's lengthening his neck without putting his nose in the sand, munching on grass, or getting stuck, when he's just sort of moving and finding that longer neck, you'll see the top of the barrel and the top of the hindquarter have even less visible movement. And that's the stability you're looking for through here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll feel it in your hands, like the contact, the rein tension is lighter, not necessarily light, but a little lighter and steadier.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and he's really like there as he lengthens the neck and keeps moving through. When we looked at Pablo last time, for Pablo to find that as soon as he did with like more significant issues than Stitch was really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Stitch starting to find those on both directions, where like there he shortens the neck, he gets a little
Yep.
unstable. The
Yep.
distraction creates the imbalance. The imbalance can lead to the distraction. Don't know, don't care.
Yep. Yep.
But as you keep going, you'll really start to visibly see the difference when his neck is sort of up here. Oh, this is a
Mm-hmm.
circle. That's the struggle. We're going on a circle. And
Yeah. Yeah. I was
then,
just gonna say, yeah, we're going around
mhm,
circles, so he's,
yeah.
yeah, struggle town.
But even there, as he's sort of lengthening the neck, right? What
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing as the muscles become softer, which makes all horses happier, we can
Yep.
really see that skeletal coordination underneath. And so
Yeah.
going left, this is the weakness with the right hind on the outside. His
Yep.
strongest pattern is to shift his weight forward and left. And that's why the
Mm-hmm.
left circles are a little tougher. It's also
Yep.
why you did exactly the right thing to sort of give him enough hindquarter support that his neck went to the outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to
And
be,
I shouldn't be pulling his neck back in, should I? I shouldn't be trying to straighten him up in that situation. Just let his neck go
Mhm.
where it needs to go.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's just look at that again because you did it absolutely perfectly. Um,
So I just move in a little bit rather than like standing right in the middle of the circle. I
there
just
we
kind of
go. Yeah.
walk, yeah,
So now
walk
you're
around.
moving in.
Side.
So if you think about it, his flat pancake foot is the left front. We
Yes.
know that the right hind is not the easiest leg for him to use.
Mm-hmm.
So now the right hind is on the outside and the left
Yep.
front is on the inside.
Yep.
So his habit is inviting him. Whoops, let me just pause it right there. His habit is inviting him to bend his neck left and just
Mm-hmm.
drop all his weight on that left front leg. And you can
Yep.
think of the right hind on the outside as sort of floating along, not really working, just being decorative. And so as you feel that slack on your left rein on this direction,
Mm-hmm.
before
Yep.
you can even see him fall in or before he loses steering, you're going to get that slack. And so as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you're pulling the hindquarters, what you're doing is you're stepping that right hind towards the midline and the left hind in towards you. So you're
Mm-hmm.
widening, you're sort of saying, hey, right hind, you're still working, even though you're on the outside. And you're
Yep.
widening the
Yep.
hind legs to give him a base of support. And
Mm-hmm.
if the hindquarters, like the neck bent to the outside, is directly related to the lack of engagement through the hindquarters or the lack of control over their own body weight. So the
Mm-hmm.
harder they fall on the left front, the more the
Mm-hmm.
neck is to the outside, which if we look at it, that outside rein supporting is putting the hindquarters back in a stable place. And the neck
Yep. Yep.
to the outside is really taking that front end weight away from the left front.
Yeah.
So instead
Yeah.
of sort
Okay.
of his normal way of traveling left would be like this,
Yes.
right? And if you
Yep.
bend my neck to the outside, it almost helps me do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that
Yeah.
make
Yeah. That
sense?
makes sense. Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I just go by the feel of the inside rein because then when he stabilizes his hindquarter and he can control his own body weight, he won't put that much slack on the line.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Yep.
his neck will look straight, but the rein will also have the tension in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the
Yeah.
neck
Okay.
looks if the neck looks straight, but the inside rein is really loose, you're just letting them fall.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to put the neck to the outside and change the balance.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Hmm. But this is just it's like heads or tails. It's the same coin. It's the same issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right hind, left
Mm-hmm.
front. But when
Yep.
you track right, it's different because you're emphasizing the right hind. And when you track left, you're trying to keep him on the right hind so he doesn't fall on the left front shoulder.
Yep.
But pretty good.
Mm.
Like he's just coming along steadily. I don't think he's
Yep.
ready for you to do like a proper stand in the middle, make a perfect circle.
No.
He's
No.
just not ready
No.
for it.
No. Maybe another month of what I'm doing here, like serpentines and a few circles, maybe even some more circles like that.
Hmm.
That would just,
Well, that so
yeah.
far are the best circles I've seen you be able to do with him. And I think
Mm-hmm.
you're right. Just going a tiny bit to the inside if you're changing direction or doing a circle without
Yeah.
going all the way up to his middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit of a sneaky peek on stabilizing the pelvis, but not so much that he feels he can't keep moving.
Yes. Yep.
And that's the delicate balance with him is how stable can we get the pelvis and the barrel without losing forward?
Mm.
And that's kind of the trick with Pablo as well, is like how much guidance can you give before he goes, yeah, I'm not moving anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
But you
Exactly.
see that change of posture just there. Let me just back it up a smidge. Just as he comes around here, he keeps playing with a longer and longer neck to where you see even the crest of the neck where the mane is actually straightens out once in a while. And that's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal because he can't let go of the neck like that fully,
Mm-hmm.
that much
Yep.
length, unless he feels some, at least a minimal amount of stability through the hindquarter.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, so even though we still see the wobble, it's still a work in progress, both
Mm-hmm.
directions. And I would say, I don't know, maybe 40% of the whole video, he's got a neck that's longer than shorter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say he's a little over the 50% mark of still using his neck like this, which is
Mm-hmm.
they shorten the neck muscles when the hindquarters aren't stable.
Yes. Yep.
The hindquarters have to be stable, the spine has to be straight and stable for the neck
Mm-hmm.
to let go. And
Yep.
so I think playing with the turns and the serpentines is actually speeding up that process for him. I think that's very good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and towards the end of each direction, that's when you see that percentage of time with his neck long shift the other direction. So like
Yeah.
when you
Yep.
start off, it's mostly shortening, and by the
Mm-hmm.
end of, I think, what did you do, about 15 minutes each way?
Yeah. 15 each way this time. Yep.
Hmm. So as you get kind of midway to the end of 15 minutes, like that's quite good. He changed direction without really
Mm.
shortening the neck,
The head
without
didn't go
really
up.
losing
Yeah.
his rhythm. And he's
Yep.
just kind of trucking along now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the good news is that he's starting to feel the comfort and the relief in his body rather than just the challenge of the change. And
Yes.
I think from this point going forward, you're going to start seeing kind of bigger jumps in progress. So
Mm-hmm.
rather than feeling like it's just the slow, tedious, can you please, it
Yep.
things are going to start getting noticeably easier.
Yep.
Noticeably easier
He
for
stops
him.
there because that's where I take him off when we're finished. So when we change direction to this way, as we, halfway through, he'll then every time we get to this bit, he's like, "Is that it? Have we stopped?"
Yeah, yeah. But he's pretty willing to go when you say, no, we're not done yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you're working through this beautifully. Like you're taking your time, you're not losing the feel of the reins, you're giving him a little minute to think about it, and then you say, okay, come on, we can do it.
Mm-hmm. I found that if I wait just for him to be ready, it just saves so many arguments, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You just yeah.
And some horses will take advantage of that generosity, and then you go,
Ah,
okay, knock it off, let's go, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like I swear I had one horse, I would let him stop to poop, and I don't think anybody ever had. And so he got to where he would stop and squeeze out one ball. And I'm like, really?
Oh, that's
I go,
funny.
okay, you're just taking advantage now. Like,
Ah,
and they're
yeah,
funny,
that's
they
funny.
will test us that way. And I think with Pablo, that's really all that's going on is
Mm,
he sort of just keeps testing you to see if you're confident yet.
yeah,
And as
yeah,
soon as you tell him to knock it off and just start over,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because he can be a big, scary horse in my mind.
well, and whenever you are worried, your number one safety tool is space,
Yeah,
distance.
yeah, yeah.
So if I don't trust a horse, I've got a rope halter for the leverage and I've got a long, heavy rope. And I go, if we begin having a conversation at 20 or 30 feet apart, then that's where we begin. But
Mm-hmm.
you always have to put the horse at a distance that allows you to feel safe. That's not up to anybody but you. And
Yep,
so if you're not comfortable, if he shows you signs that make you uncomfortable at a closer distance, you always have the right to say, okay, you go back over there. We're going to try this again. You're making me uncomfortable.
yep, yep. This is him just saying, I thought we were over. Well, I thought we
Yeah,
were done.
yeah, just a little dramatic moment.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. I mean, that's getting near the end of a half hour total, and he's probably going, yeah, I'm kind of
Mm,
done. But I like
yeah.
that how you're interacting with Stitch, maybe because you're at a farther distance or you're more comfortable with him. Your
Mm-hmm.
timing, your corrections, they're kind, but they're sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have an energy about you that isn't like defeated or giving up or backing off. You're just giving him a minute
Mm-hmm.
and you're saying, okay, let's go. That's
Yeah.
exactly, you need to pull out that version of Tracey with
Yeah.
Pablo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all. And,
Yeah.
with the issues you've had with Pablo, because we kind of weave our nervous systems together with our horse, it's
Mm-hmm.
my horses are the hardest horses on the planet that I work because they know me so well.
Mm.
And my little mare that I've had for 31 years, she found every weakness that I had and just scratched on it. And
Yeah.
that's why, she's also been my greatest teacher. She's made me a better person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they show us, but how
Mm.
you're interacting, like this tells me it's in you. It's just not coming out when you're with Pablo compared to Stitch. But everything you're
Mm,
doing here, you've got a good feel, you've got focus, you're certain, and if he needs a minute, you're kind, and then you move on. That's
mm-hmm.
exactly, that's the Tracey that Pablo
Yeah.
needs to get familiar with.
Yeah.
And if you feel sorry for Pablo, then that energy
Mm-hmm.
is going to change. Like here, you're kind of, come on, Stitch, we can do it. This is working, and you're sure he can
Yeah.
do it. And
Yeah.
even when we feel guilty about our horses or we feel sorry for them, I think
Mm-hmm.
they just play on that
And
because
that's
it's
probably where it's initiated from. Yeah.
yeah, because somebody said it to me once, nature does not feel sorry for itself.
No.
And so when we come to nature with feeling sorry, like it came up a lot when I worked with rescue horses. Rescue horses don't feel sorry for themselves, no matter how pathetic they look to us.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down and they take their mind away. But if they're not
Yeah.
completely shut down, they just do the best they can every day they're alive and they go about
Yeah.
their business.
Yeah.
And so when we come at them with regret or feeling sorry for them or feeling like we've done something wrong, they see is a weak energy.
Yeah.
They see
Yeah.
something that doesn't belong in nature, and that's why I think they pick on it.
Yeah. That's probably exactly what it is. I've felt
Hmm.
sorry for him for his injuries, and I'm always thinking, what's wrong? What's going on in your body? And that's just the wrong energy.
Yeah. I think if you look at him, and this is where the progress you're making with Stitch and the changes you're seeing,
Mm-hmm.
the softness that's coming into his muscles, the calmness that's coming into his demeanor, his sort of willingness to work rather than always wanting to fight you and bite you. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that's where Pablo is going. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, if you think about how excited you are to heal or to go do something with Pablo, I think that
Yeah.
would be an energy that he could get around more than the sort of feel
Yeah. Change my
sorry
mindset
energy.
about it all. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because even
Yeah.
like
Because
I've
they
been,
do, they pick up everything, don't they? So if you've got a certain mindset or a certain energy, they're just onto it.
yeah, and it weakens them. So like even
Mm.
Prima, as bad as she looked, and even put it on video on YouTube, it's like she wants to go do her work. Some
Mm-hmm.
days she got tired in the beginning, sometimes she couldn't do a lot in the beginning, but I never doubted that she would fully heal. At
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
years old, I go, I still am not doubting that you can
Mm-hmm.
fully recover. And it's
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
certainty that she goes to work with, and it's really finally starting to show in her body. And it's
Mm-hmm.
been, months and months and months of just doing long reins on a circle before she even looked like she wasn't emaciated. And now she's
Yeah.
kind of more rapidly putting on some muscle, looks like she has more weight, but she wanted to go to work every day. And
Mm.
even if I had to drag her like she was on a, dun, 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 into the arena,
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, we're going to do the best we can today. And
Yeah. Yeah.
slowly that kind of picked up some momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very
And I
good.
go, I think I finally understand why my mom nagged my dad so much for his own good. I go, well, I don't want to be a nag, but you got to get rolling here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, this is like you're just doing a fantastic job all the way through this. So you can at least
Oh,
be a
thank
little
you.
more sure of yourself
Mm-hmm.
and tell Pablo he hasn't met the new version of you yet.
No. Okay. I'll have to just put a new face on when I go down there to see him this afternoon.
Yeah.
He's getting brushed and he's having his rug on,
Yeah. And
whether he
even
likes it or not.
even if that is the lesson with multiple
Yeah.
times, multiple timeout, multiple go
Yep.
to your corners,
Yep.
multiple take a fresh start.
Yep.
That to me is so valuable to the overall relationship. It's worth the time.
Yeah. Oh, something actually I might ask you. So if I, rather than tying him up on the railing while I'm brushing him and putting his rug on, there's a little bit of grass. It's not super grassy, but there's a little bit of grass where we stand. What are your thoughts? Because he's quite, I'll say quite rude, not rude, it's probably not wrong, but he just um like dives down for the grass,
Rude is a
right? So if
very
I'm
good
trying,
word.
okay, rude is a good word. Okay. um uh okay, so it's a bit rude, dives down for the grass. What's your thoughts on bumping them when they're down there? If you've asked him to keep their head up at whilst I'm brushing or putting the rug on, if he dives for the brush, am I kind of okay to give him a bump on the lead rope?
Absolutely. Because it's like class time has begun,
Yeah,
right? Everybody put their phones away, everybody put their notes away. Class has
yeah,
started, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like if you don't, as the boss or the teacher or the guide or the mother, if you're not the one who says, okay, time to pay attention, and you just let him sort of
Mm,
decide, then they don't know what to do with that.
yeah, yeah.
And if you have an issue like you do, your safety is in having 100% of his attention on you and
Mm,
accepting what is being done.
yeah,
So what's
yeah.
happening is he either has his attention on you and he doesn't like it, or he
Mm-hmm.
tolerates you because his attention is not on it.
That's exactly.
And
Yep.
so you've got to overcome those two dualistic problems. You want
Mm-hmm.
attention on you and
Yep.
calm acceptance. You want
Mm,
both of those things together. And so
yeah.
the first thing is the thing you can do is make sure he keeps his attention on you and gives you a polite distance. And if he's
Mm-hmm.
rude, you say, hey, don't be rude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you
Yeah.
can't make
Okay.
him calm. That's the part you have to work for. That's you can't
Yep.
make him accept it. You have to wait for that. But you can
Mm-hmm.
say, pay attention, and you're bothering me or scaring me right now, so you need to be farther away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime you get a
Yeah.
butterfly, you just say, okay, I need 6 or 10 feet
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
until
can do
you
that.
feel safe. Yeah.
Yep. Lovely.
And I know you probably got to
Cool.
go to work. Are we running late?
Yeah, I better go to work.
Okay. Let me
Yeah.
stop the share. Absolutely.
Thank you so
So,
much.
yep.
Brilliant.
I'll